All right, here we go on a Monday, July 2nd, 2023. Check that, July 3rd, 2023. One day away from the 4th of July. And I would like to hear from you here. I did put the question up. Got a couple of questions going up on Twitter about what are your plans for the 4th of July. Like to know that. Also asking, well, let me get this out of the way quick. If you want to follow along on Twitter, you can do that at Wisconsin_fam. That's at Wisconsin_FAM. You can follow on YouTube and subscribe on there as well. YouTube.com/Wisconsin Family and then the number 1. And then on TikTok as well, just search for Wisconsin_family. I think that covers it. We have Instagram too. We don't post much on there yet. That is coming. We'll push that more once the time comes. Anyways, so two things I want to know from you today, which I'm asking on Twitter as not necessarily poll questions, because you can certainly write in whatever you want to. But first question is, in terms of the 4th of July, what are you up to this weekend? What are you doing? What are you eating, maybe? Blasting off fireworks, going to parades. Maybe you're going to the Brewer game, Brewers Cubs. We're going to get into that here in a second. The other question that I have for you is, in your opinion, to this point, halfway through, a game or two past the halfway mark of the regular season for the Brewers, who's your Brewer MVP right now? Because Devin Williams was named to the All-Star roster. Congratulations to him. Second time there. Been a big part of the Brewers' success. So I started thinking, he's had 30 appearances this year. 28 of them have been scoreless. And he has 17 saves. So I started thinking, that's a lot of value in that. A lot of outings in which he did not give up any runs. That's pretty valuable, because you look at this Brewer team, and they still, and I've said this 100 times, and I know a lot of other people have said it as well, this Brewer team just doesn't pass the eye test. You look at it, they're in first place. And, a handful of games over 500, but you look at them, and you just, I can't figure out how they're doing it. Because their offense hasn't been very good. The pitching staff has been so beat up. I think as we go on throughout the season, though, some things are beginning to make themselves clear and starting to surface. One of those is this Brewer team is winning games because of the bullpen, and Devin Williams is the leader of that. We'll get into that a little bit more, but my question is, because it made me think, is he the Brewers MVP so far halfway through the season? Because no doubt, the Brewer bullpen has been their most valuable asset. And he's the leader of that bullpen. But then you start looking at it and you say, okay, well, look at some of these other pitchers. Colin Ray went 6 2/3 innings again yesterday. Julio Teheran, who's on the mound today, he's got an ERA at 2.84. Those two guys have held down this Brewers pitching staff with all these injuries. Or is it Christian Yelich, who's kind of returned to form here, and he's hitting well again? Offensively, I can't think of anyone else that... Owen Miller was on a tear for a while, but he's come back down to earth, and wouldn't consider him. He may have been an MVP for 1 month, but Yelich has been pretty consistent here. So that's why my question to you: what are you doing 4th of July? What are your plans? And who is the Brewers MVP right now? Now, I threw a couple of names out there. I don't know if I missed anyone, but let me know what you think. At Wisconsin_fam on Twitter, at Wisconsin_FAM, and I do want to get to some of those and read them here before the podcast is over. But the Brewers, boy, what a road trip they had. They win 7 out of 10 games. What about the offensive explosion that they had over the weekend? I got to double check it here. 7 runs on Friday, 11 runs. Can you believe it? This Milwaukee Brewer offense scored 11 runs on Saturday. Unheard of. What is this? What is this offense? And then they score 6 again yesterday. Win 2 out of 3 against the Pirates, which could have easily been a sweep had the bullpen not blown it in Game 1. I like the newfound Brewer offense. I hope it continues here against the Cubs. But if you can take that and pair it with what has been, minus the little hiccup on Friday, if you can take this newfound offense and pair it with what's been a very solid bullpen, the Brewers are going to take this NL Central and they're going to run away with it. No problem. The Reds are coming back down to earth. The NL Central is very, very tight. And part of that is because, quite frankly, it is a bad division. But can't fault the Brewers for that. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're in first place in a bad division. But right now, let's see if I pull it up here to get exactly the standings. I don't want to get my numbers wrong. So the Brewers and Reds, obviously, are tied atop the division. Pirates 5.5 games out. You have the Cubs. Cubs are 6 games out. Cardinals 9.5 games out. And there's not a single Brewer fan or Cub fan or Pirate fan or Red fan on this planet that's sad about the Cardinals being that far in the basement. But the division is open. Look at the Cubs. Brewers today start a 4-game series against Chicago. If, heaven forbid, the Cubs were to get a sweep, they'd only be 2 games back. And the Brewers have quite a few games to play against divisional opponents yet. They play the Cubs and the Reds here on this homestand, so both of those are big series. You can put some distance between yourself and the Cubs. And then hopefully you can do the same and pick up a couple of games against the Reds when you play them here on this homestand as well. But this 4th of July series against Cubs starts today. It's number 1. It's always a pretty wild show at AmFam Field, Miller Park. Whenever the Cubs come to town. Fans coming up from Chicago. Gets pretty wild in there, depending on where you're sitting. The higher up you go, more wild it becomes. So it's always a fun series. It's always pretty intense with the crowd usually, quite frankly, being split about 50-50. But then add on to that this is the 4th of July series, and that makes it even more fun because there is not a better way in this country, not on this planet, but in this country, to celebrate Independence Day than with baseball. America's sport. Right? No better way for that. Of which, speaking of that was the best fireworks show that my family and I have ever been to. Dad took me to, I think it had to have been the first year that Miller Park opened up. Their first season, they were at home on the 4th of July. We went to a late afternoon game, so there was fireworks afterwards, and that was by far the best fireworks display that you'd ever see. I mean, if you take a good fireworks display and you take the grand finale of that, you could multiply it times about 20, and it was constant from start to finish for I don't know how long they went, 40 plus minutes. Entire stadium was shaking. It was I wasn't very old at that time, but I remember that. It's a great fireworks show. At any rate, no better way to spend a 4th of July than with that and baseball. So I'm going to get back to the poll question that I asked here in just a minute, asking you 2 questions today on Twitter. Who is the Brewers' MVP as we sit halfway through the season? Also, what are your plans for the 4th of July? I'll read some of those responses coming up here. The Bucks over the weekend, they re-sign Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez after free agency started on Friday. So here's my thought on that. If you were somebody who wanted Mike Budenholzer fired, you should have no problem with bringing back Middleton and Lopez. Because clearly, Coach Bud was the problem. Otherwise, you wouldn't have wanted him fired. And you think about it, the Bucks were not that far off from winning a championship last year. I know they got bounced in the first round. By the way, they weren't the only team to get knocked out of the playoffs by the Miami Heat. Now, that's not an excuse for it to happen. Shouldn't have happened. And heads need to roll, and they did. Coach Bud got fired. But that should fix things, right? Because that's what everyone wanted. We want him fired, myself included. I'm not saying I wanted Bud back, but I'm just saying if he was the problem and he was fired, then there should be no problem with bringing Middleton and Lopez back because this team wasn't far off. They dominated during the regular season. Record-long win streaks. Easy, like a knife through butter during the regular season. So how far away were they? Their best team in the NBA in the regular season, how far away were they from winning the NBA championship? Probably one coach away, and that's why Bud got fired. It was not a player issue. And by the way, Middleton missed a ton of games last year. But if he's back and healthy, and you bring Lopez back, that's your best shot. You weren't going to get anyone better than either one of those two. And the money that was spent on them had to be spent on them or it couldn't be spent on anyone. Look that up. See how the NBA works with that. It's an attempt by the NBA for teams to keep their cores together and almost force them, quite frankly, to keep their cores together. But they weren't going to upgrade from Middleton and Lopez. You've already made the move that you thought you needed to make, which was what you thought was keeping you from the title, which was Budenholzer. So you bring you hire Griffin, you bring the same players back, and you give it another try. And I think it's going to be with different results. But you can't be on both camps. It's not logical to say, well, I want Bud fired, but I don't want Middleton. I don't want Lopez back. Well, then why'd you want Bud fired? Know what I mean? So, good weekend here in the state of Wisconsin for golf. Yeah, that turned out great. U.S. Senior Open in Stevens Point. Went well. The smoke lifted just in time. It was a beautiful weekend weather-wise. You had Steve Stricker, Joe Kelly up near the top of the leaderboard, making things interesting. Bernhard Langer ended up winning it. By the way, he's the oldest to ever win a U.S. Senior Open. 65 years old. But beautiful golf course that's at Century World in Stevens Point. And I was glad to see that everything worked out so well. A great tournament, good play, good weather, good course, good action. So that was good to see for the state of Wisconsin. All those people around Stevens Point really packing it in there. All right, let's take a look here and see what response we have here from Twitter. Again, you can follow along at Wisconsin_fam, at Wisconsin_FAM on Twitter. Who's Brewers MVP as we sit halfway through the season? Matthew says Yelich or Wade Miley. Wisco Country Boy says Yelich, Peralta, Williams, Weimer outside candidate. Well, we can only have one. There's only one MVP. Another tweet, Devin Williams. Dale says Devin. KJ says me. I appreciate that. KJ says, I am the MVP. My negativity is yielding first place results. Well, I appreciate the credit. I don't feel like I can take all that credit, but I'll take some. Michael says, Devin Williams or Wade Miley. So I didn't have Miley. I didn't have him on the list. I mean, he's been good. He's been solid. He missed some time with an injury as well. To me, if I have to pick one right now, I gotta say Devin Williams. If Williams weren't holding things down in the back of that bullpen, Brewers have a. I mean, look at this. Look at this, because you got to think about it this way, too. The Brewer offense really doesn't have any MVPs on it because they haven't been good. And you know what happens when you're not good? I'm sorry if this is negative. This is reality, ladies and gentlemen. When your offense sucks throughout the entire first half of the season, you're not scoring runs. And when you're not scoring runs, more than likely you're going to be in some very, very tight games. And when you're in tight games, you need a guy in the back end of that bullpen that is going to shut things down, and that's exactly what Devin Williams has done. So I'd give him that. I would give him the MVP. If he weren't there doing that, it would have to go to, you flip a coin and pick one, Colin Ray or Julio Teheran, because the wins that they've gotten, the performances that they put out, relatively unknown people, were unexpected. Winter signings that were a small deal at the time now turned into a big deal. If they didn't have those guys, Brewers would really be in a lot of trouble, and they wouldn't be anywhere close to first place. Anyways, keep them coming in at Wisconsin_fam. The other question, what are your plans for the 4th of July? Patman40, trying not to kill my neighbors for lighting off illegal fireworks. I don't have too many of those in my neighborhood. I live about 2 blocks away from what you would call out in the country. I hear a lot of gunshots. I don't know if that's not people shooting each other. Target practice, I'm expecting, or just some people out in the country liking to shoot off guns. But in the time we've been here, I haven't heard a lot of fireworks from our neighbors. But the problem is, all of a sudden the 4th of July comes, and come August 1st, you're still hearing fireworks get blasted off randomly, and just leftovers, evidently, of what are left. Now, I've shot real fireworks off with my father-in-law, but I don't buy them for our house. Besides living in town, I'm not gonna shoot off fireworks. I had some smaller things, Roman candles, firecrackers, bottle rockets are fun, sparklers for the kids. David said, had our lake time at the cabin in northern Minnesota. Now headed home to finish rebuilding our house from a fire. Well, that's not good. Good luck to you, David. Sorry about the fires. Rebuilding our house from a fire so we can move back in next week. Get it ready for football season. Well, there you go. It says go Pack Go. Yes, exactly. I'm sorry about your home, David. But indeed, yes, go Pack Go. Wayne says, heading to Disneyland for the rest of the week, starting on the 4th. Mark says, Monona Festival, tradition to give away 200 free hot dogs, kids lemonade stand donations, go to local PTO. All right. Got a couple of comments here, said that they are working. People are working. I did get a comment that I wanted to get to here. We were talking about the Brewers, right? And we were talking about how it's such a tight division right now in first place, and how they had a good weekend series here, or a good road trip, going 7-3 in those 10 games. I got a comment on TikTok. Again, you can follow there at Wisconsin_family. Wisconsin_family. Prince says, imagine if we had the Dodgers payroll, we'd actually be worth watching after the first 120 games. So the first thing that I would say to that is that the league, Major League Baseball, is inherently unfair. Now, this is not me complaining. I'm saying, well, life is not fair. That's not what I'm doing. But this is a league. It's supposed to be fair. There's supposed to be equal rules for everyone. Equal chance for everyone. As a league. That's how it should be. But it's not. Because the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers can spend whatever they want. Money that... Now, I know Mark A is cheap. Believe me, I've been leading the charge on Mark A needing to get out of town since probably the second year that he was there. He's cheap. But, be that as it may, even if he wanted to spend big money, he couldn't. He couldn't spend as much money as the Dodgers, the Yankees. They don't have it. Teams like the Brewers or the Twins, others, the Rays, Marlins. You can go down the list. So that's the first thing I would say is that baseball is inherently unfair as it operates as a league. Now, that being said, you don't have to have money to win a championship. Look at the Rays right now. They're in first place. A lot of the teams that are in first place are very, very near are some of the smaller payrolls. Oh, you got the Brewers in first place? You got the Reds in first place. Let me bring back up the standings here. Marlins, well, the Marlins are 9 games out of first place, but I'm sure they're in a spot for the wild card right now. Diamondbacks, it's not the largest market. They're in first place. American League, got the Rays, like I said. Baltimore, 16 games over 500. It's not a huge. It's not the Yankees or the Dodgers. Twins in first place. Cleveland in first place. All small market. So you don't need, it's helpful, but you don't need the money to be able to do that. It should be that way. It should be more fair. But what I hold out hope for, and this is just the hand your dollar. This is how baseball is, and they're not going to go to a salary cap, though I wish they could. I wish they would, but they're not going to go to a salary cap. Players union would never allow that. But be that as it may, this is the reality that we live in. It is what it is. Being in the circumstance that we're in, as far as I'm concerned, as a fan of the Brewers, or if you're a fan of the Twins, or things like that, what you have to do is you gotta look at it and take a situation like what happened with the Philadelphia Phillies last year. They get in that last wild card spot, which easily could have belonged to the Brewers, had they not mucked it all up. Sorry again, Twitter user, for being negative. They didn't make the playoffs. Sorry, they screwed it up. It's not being negative, that's being truthful. At any rate, last year, Phillies make the playoffs, and they get hot, and they ride it all the way to the World Series. That's just the way it's going to have to happen. If you're a team like the Brewers or the Twins or the Guardians and stuff like that, you're not going to be able to spend that money. The Guardians are never going to spend what the Dodgers do. If they want to win a championship, a World Series, it's going to have to be the same as the Brewers. You're going to have to get in. You can win your division or get in as a wild card, but you got to get hot when you get in. Blow through it, kind of like Miami Heat did this year. Take your chances. That's the best bet you have with the way that this league is set up, and that's unfortunate. But it is what it is. Corey says the Brewers' biggest issue is the fact that nobody worth a damn really wants to come to Milwaukee in free agency. Well, I don't know if that's really the problem. Not having money is the problem. Milwaukee, it's not the attractive destination that, to some, that maybe California would be or New York would be. But yeah, money talks, and if you had the money to be able to spend, you could do it. You're telling me that if the Brewers had money to spend, nobody wants to come to Milwaukee. Well, if you had money to spend, if you could offer Bryce Harper more money than what he's getting right now, you mean he wouldn't have come to Milwaukee? Especially if you can offer other big contracts and you get a few other good players to Milwaukee? You're telling me Bryce Harper wouldn't come? Money talks. The problem isn't the city of Milwaukee. The problem is small market Milwaukee not having enough money, plus the owner that you have coupled with that, he just makes it worse because he's cheap. So that's no fun. Follow along on Twitter at Wisconsin_fam. That's at Wisconsin_FAM. Wisconsin_family. If you want to go on TikTok, we have a lot of fun on there. Some interaction back and forth and things of that nature. So Brewers starting this series here tonight. Julio Teheran, 2-3, 2.85 ERA, going up against Drew Smyly, 7-5, 3.96 ERA. Could be a good pitcher's duel. unless this Brewer offense keeps things going. Drips says, I'm a Cubs fan, and I already know you guys are winning. Well, thank you. I hope you're right. I thought Cubs fans would be a little more advantageous for their team here. Scrolling through some things here. What are you doing on the 4th of July? And a comment here from TikTok. It says, working, making triple time. Oh, all right. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Just want to go back here and make sure we get everything off of Twitter before we wrap things up here. Whatever you're going to do for the 4th, I hope you're having a good time, staying safe. Let's see. Eric, who's been the Brewers MVP halfway through the season. Eric says Christian Yelich. What is his number? I gotta look. I know about what Yelich's numbers are, but I want to see what his exact numbers are right now as we sit on July 3rd before the Brewers. Actually, Brewers are about to, as I'm recording this, Brewers are about to throw the first pitch here against the Cubs. I just want to see what Yelich's stats are right now halfway through this season. 297 at-bats, 81 hits, 10 home runs, 273 batting average. Where is 77 strikeouts, 43 walks. Let's see, on base percentage 370, slugging 438, OPS 808. Let's see, where is his RBIs? 40 RBI. Though he's not going to have a ton of RBIs being at the top of the lineup. But I mean, offensively, no doubt, he's the MVP. So can't say that that's not a good vote. All right, that's going to wrap things up here. Going to get out of here, go watch the Brewer game. I hope everyone has a safe and a good 4th of July. Get outside, spend some time out in the sun, have that Brewer game on the radio. If you're going to the Brewer game against Cubs, beware of Cub fans. Get there early, have fun. But we're going to take tomorrow off. But we will be back on a Wednesday for you. Have a great day.